Hey, everybody. Welcome back to For the Booze.
Welcome back, Booze Cruise, for another week.
What's up?
Hey, what's going on, babe? Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
I can't believe you forgot. Man, our listeners aren't going to be happy.
I did not forget. Oh, my lordy.
So I guess that would be our What's New segment this week.
Yes, our anniversary, and we're both sick, so that's fun.
I mean, it never fails. Every year.
Every anniversary.
Well, last year you weren't sick, but I was very sick.
Yeah, you got super strep throat last year.
Bad. So,
and we were in a hotel, so that was fun.
To be fair, though, at least we didn't, buy a hotel room this year, and we're not really doing our anniversary till Friday, so the day's just the day.
Yes, but you all get to enjoy our husky-sounding voices today.
It is what it is. I don't know what to tell them. What are we going to do? But anyways, listeners, as you can tell, yet again, no listener story. Don't know where we're going to go with this, so we'll see what happens. We'd still like you to send them in if you got them. So remember, forthebooze12@gmail.com.
Absolutely.
Send them over. In. But I guess lacking that portion of our show, maybe we should, we are going to be recording Friday, and we're actually going to go to the place to record. We're not going to be able to record there, but we're actually going to go there before we record.
Yes.
So I'm pretty stoked about that.
That is where we're going on our anniversary date.
Yeah, so the next one, the week after this one, it'll probably be a good one. So
I know.
Definitely want to check that one out.
I'm super excited.
Me too. So what are we doing this week?
This week, we are doing Jim Thorpe.
The Inn at Jim.
The Inn at Jim Thorpe. I almost said Jim Thorpe Inn.
Let's try it again. Where are we going?
The Inn at Jim Thorpe.
That's better. Yes, we're doing the Inn at Jim Thorpe, which we were sent this suggestion by East Coast Paranormal, and I had never heard of it. For the whole time I was looking it up, I was like, "Oh, this is in New York." Mm-hmm. They're in New York, and
right?
It's not. It's in Pennsylvania, and I had never heard of Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, so I get to learn some new stuff in this one. So I'm pretty stoked about it.
Super cool.
Yeah, it's a very cool one. Yeah, I think this is gonna be a good one.
So thank you, everybody, at East Coast Paranormal.
East Coast Paranormal.
We appreciate
Ben
you.
and Amber, we appreciate y'all.
Yes.
I can't remember everybody else's name. We didn't meet them, so we can't be held accountable for that. But we do know you guys, and we appreciate you sending in the suggestion. So I think with that, we should just go ahead and get into the Inn at Jim Thorpe. I'd like to thank INNJT.com, DelawareandLehigh.org, and the great and all-powerful Wikipedia.com.
Wikipedia.
My boys. And girls. I don't know who works there. Jim Thorpe, also known as the Switzerland of America and the gateway to the Poconos, is a borough and the county seat of Carbon County in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania. It is located in the Pocono Mountains of northeastern Pennsylvania, about 80 miles north of Philadelphia and 100 miles west of New York City. It is historically known as the burial site of the body of Native American sports legend Jim Thorpe. Now, Jim Thorpe was founded in 1818 as Mauch Chunk, a name derived from the term Mauch Unk, or bear place, in the language of the native Munsee Lenape Delaware peoples. Possibly a reference to Bear Mountain, an extension of Mauch Chunk Ridge that resembled a sleeping bear, or perhaps the original profile of the ridge, which has since changed heavily by 220 years of mining. The company town was founded by Josiah White and his two partners, founders of the Lehigh Coal and Navigation Company, LC&N. The town would be the lower terminus of a gravity railroad, the Summit Hill and Mauch Chunk Railroad, which would bring coal to the head of the LC&N Lehigh Canal for transshipment to the confluence of the Delaware River, 26.7 miles downstream of Easton. It would thereby ship LC&N's coal to Philadelphia, Trenton, New York City, and other large cities in New Jersey and Delaware, and by the ocean to the whole East Coast. Canal shipping was eventually replaced by railroad shipping. After the Pennsylvania Canal Commission smoothed the way, Lehigh Coal and Navigation built the Lehigh and Susquehanna Railroad from Pittston to Ashley, building the Ashley Plains Inclined Railway and linked that by rail from Mountain Top to Whitehaven at the head of the canal's upper works, referred to as the Grand Lehigh Canal, which navigation should work into Lehigh Gorge route, cutting the distance from Philadelphia to Wilkes Barre and the Wyoming Valley coal deposits by over 100 miles. This place, Mauch Chunk, is the center of a nexus of transportation in the country that is tough to travel through. When floods wiped out many of the upper Lehigh Canal works in 1861, the L&S Railroad was extended through the gap to supplement the canal, and the so-called switchback twisted backtrack through Avoca, A-V-O-C-A, I think that's how you say it, with the improved engines of the day, enabled two-way steam locomotive traction and traffic despite the steep grades. Mauch Chunk was the location of one of the trials of the Molly Maguires in 1876, which resulted in the hanging of 4 men found guilty of murder. The Molly Maguires were an Irish 19th century secret society active in Ireland, Liverpool, and parts of the eastern United States, best known for their activism amongst Irish American and Irish immigrant coal miners in Pennsylvania. After a series of often violent conflicts, 20 suspected members of the Molly Maguires were convicted of murder and other crimes and were executed by hanging in 1877 and 1888. The history remains part of local Pennsylvania lore, and the actual facts are much debated amongst historians. The Mollys are believed to have been present in the anthracite coal fields of Pennsylvania in the United States since at least the Panic of 1873, until becoming largely inactive following a series of arrests, trials, and executions, between 1876 and 1878. Members of the Mollys were accused of murder, arson, kidnapping, and other crimes, in part based on allegations by Franklin B. Gowan and the testimony of the Pinkerton detective James McParland, also known as James McKenna, a native of County Armagh, Ireland. Fellow prisoners testified against the defendants, who were arrested by the Coal and Iron Police. Gowan acted as a prosecutor in some of the trials. Boo.
Boo.
Boo that man. The trust seemed to have focused almost exclusively upon the Molly Maguires for criminal prosecution. Information passed from the Pinkerton detective intended only for detective agency and their client. The most powerful industrialist of the region was also provided to vigilantes who ambushed and murdered miners suspected of being Molly Maguires, as well as their families. Molly Maguire history is sometimes presented as the prosecution of an underground movement that was motivated by personal vendettas, and sometimes as a struggle between the organized labor and powerful industrial forces. Whether membership in the Molly Society overlapped union membership to any appreciable extent remains open to conjecture. Some historians, such as Philip Rosen, former curator of the Holocaust Awareness Museum of the Delaware Valley, believe that Irish immigrants brought a form of Molly Maguire's organization into America in the 19th century and continued its activities as a clandestine society. They were located in a section of the anthracite coalfields dubbed the Coal Region, which included the Pennsylvania counties of Lackawanna, Luzerne, Columbia, Schuylkill, Carbon, and Northumberland. Irish miners in this organization employed the tactics of intimidation and violence used against the Irish landlords during the Land Wars, yet again in violent confrontations against the anthracite or hard coal mining companies in the 19th century. The population of the borough in 1900 was 4,020, and in 1910 it was 3,952. Following the 1953 death of renowned athlete and Olympic gold medal winner Jim Thorpe, Thorpe's widow and third wife, Patricia, was impatient when, after 5 months, the planned memorial in Shawnee, Oklahoma, had yet to raise the $100,000 to honor him. The town citizens had paid for her, a Thorpe son and Jim's body to be shipped from California, paid and arranged for the funeral service at St. Benedict Catholic Church, and paid for the mausoleum cost at Fairview Cemetery. Then Governor Johnston Murray vetoed a bill which would contribute funds to the erection of the memorial at Athletic Park. On September 1st, Mrs. Thorpe, saying she feared Jim would be buried in a potter's field, shipped the body to Tulsa, where she said the Chamber of Commerce was going to build a proper memorial, which was not true. When she heard that the boroughs of Mauch Chunk and East Mauch Chunk were desperately seeking to attract business, she made a deal with civic officials. According to Jim Thorpe's son, Jack, Patricia was motivated by money in seeking the deal. The two Cross River boroughs merged in 1954 and renamed the new municipality Jim Thorpe in his honor, then obtained the athlete's remains from his wife and erected a monument to the Oklahoma native, who began his sports career 100 miles southwest as a student at the Carlisle Indian Industrial School in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. The monument site contains his tomb, 2 statues of him in athletic poses, and historical markers describing his life. The grave rests on mounds of soil from Thorpe's native Oklahoma and from the Stockholm Olympic Stadium, from which he won his Olympic medals. On June 24th, 2010, one of Jim Thorpe's sons, Jack Thorpe, sued the town for his father's remains, citing the Native American Graves Protection and Reparation Act, which is designed to return Native American artifacts to their tribal homelands. On February 11, 2011, Judge Richard Caputo ruled that Jack Thorpe could not gain any monetary award, nor any amount for attorney's fees in the lawsuit, and that for the lawsuit to continue, other members of the Thorpe family and the Sac and Fox Nation would have to join him as plaintiffs. Before Jack Thorpe could respond to the ruling, he died at the age of 73 on February 2, 2011. Because of his death, his representatives were given more time to respond to the ruling. On May 2, 2011, William and Richard Thorpe, Jim Thorpe's remaining sons, and the Sac and Fox Nation of Oklahoma joined the lawsuit, allowing it to continue. On April 19, 2013, Caputo ruled in favor of William and Richard Thorpe, ruling that the borough amounts to a museum under the law. This ruling was reversed by the United States Courts of Appeals for the Third Circuit on October 23, 2014. The U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear their appeal on October 5, 2015, assuring that Jim Thorpe's remains will stay in Carbon County. The historic inn at Jim Thorpe is one of the town's landmark properties, with its grand cast iron balcony, comfortable guest rooms with a mix of Victorian and modern furnishings, and elegant suites with a whirlpool or soaking tub or fireplace. Stepping into the inn, it's a bit like walking back in time. When you set foot outside the door of this iconic local landmark, you step into the heart of one of America's most historic, picturesque towns. Outdoor recreation is an important part of life around the town of Jim Thorpe, and the D&L Trail is walking or biking distance from the inn. There are hundreds of miles of mountain biking, hiking, and cross-country ski trails, fun whitewater rafting, and kayaking on the Lehigh River, miles of rolling hills and challenging terrain for road biking, and several downhill ski areas just a short drive away.
Heck yeah.
Built in 1849, the building has a rich and colorful history. In 1833, Cornelius Connor built the White Swan Hotel to accommodate thousands of Mauch Chunk's visitors to the town during its era as a booming coal transportation hub. But in the Great Fire of 1849, the White Swan Hotel burned to the ground. It's an article I found from 1849, and it reads, We regret to learn that a very destructive and calamitous fire broke out in Mauch Chunk on Saturday last, in the most flourishing and business portion of the town, destroying property estimated at $150,000. At least 30 houses, say our telegraphic dispatch, have been reduced to ashes. The following is a list of sufferers: D&W, dry good merchants, Polk's drugstore, Leggett's wheelwright shop, John Joseph's shop and dwelling, the Eagle Hotel, Judge Packer's storehouse and the courthouse and jail, Packer and Olwine shoe store. The Oddfellows Hall was saved by dint of daring seldom excelled. We understand that the fire originated in Dodson and Beam's warehouse and was communicated from hot ashes carelessly thrown under the building. When discovered, the fire had gained such headway that resistance was vain. A heavy wind prevailing at the time that the building was soon wrapped in flames. Its course was east, crossing Main Street and Market Square until it reached Harlan's large brick dwelling. Great praise is due to the citizens for their efforts to subdue the flames." Unquote.
That's sad.
A lot of the town.
Yeah.
Connor rebuilt the hotel, and the new structure was renamed the New American Hotel. The hotel was the social center of the town during the 19th century and into the 20th century. Many dignitaries stayed here, including General Ulysses S. Grant, President William Taft, Buffalo Bill, Thomas Edison, and even John D. Rockefeller.
Wow.
During the later half of the 19th century, Mauch Chunk became a tourist attraction due to its famous switchback gravity railroad, as well as gorgeous Glen Anoco Falls. At the time, more people visited Mauch Chunk than any other tourist attraction in America, except for Niagara Falls. The inn fell into despair during the Depression, as many coal towns do during an economic downturn. It was restored to its original splendor by John Drury, whose past restoration projects include the Chestnut Hill Hotel near Philadelphia. The inn's restoration, which began when Drury purchased the inn in 1988, served as one of the major catalysts in Jim Thorpe's exciting revitalizations during the 1980s. And that's honestly where we find the hotel to this day.
Wow.
Not much has changed. The town is beautiful and there's lots of scenic things to do. Certainly there's been some deaths over time. And this is where we're going to find ourselves in present day. Unfortunately, historically, there wasn't a lot that I could actually find.
Specific to the inn?
Specific to the inn, yeah. I mean, as far as the inn, it was built, it burnt down, and it was rebuilt. Outside of that, this is a small town. This is a very small town.
Yeah.
And while it was a place where dignitaries and the upper echelon of society went, there's still a pretty big lack of information as far as the history on it. So I got what I could.
Yeah.
But I wanted to add a lot about the town because a lot of stuff actually happened in this town. Like, you know, the town is named after a man who wasn't even born there.
I was going to bring that up. Like, so he was just an athlete that they brought in and was like,
Yes.
hey, let's make some money.
Like the story said, he was supposed to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma because he was part of the Sac and Fox Nation, which is a Native American tribe. But the town couldn't come up with the money that his wife wanted.
Right.
And Mauch Chunk, which would soon become Jim Thorpe, they said, we'll do it. And so they buried him there. But he had to be buried on, underneath the soil. So they had to bring in soil. But they needed the famous recognition to bring people into the town. And ultimately it worked.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures of this place. It is beautiful.
It sounds beautiful.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
It is a very nice town. But unfortunately, as far as the inn goes, there's not much I could find. But I know there's a lot of stuff that you were able to find.
There is.
There's a pretty good story out there. And I've seen a few really good investigations go here. I'm assuming that, just like any other land in the United States, this is the Northeast. This is old Native American land.
Yeah.
On top of that, there was a hotel that burnt down.
Mm-hmm.
There was almost an entire town that burnt down as well.
All around it.
So
homes and everything else.
This is not the only place in Jim Thorpe that is rumored to be haunted.
Well, and you got to think, too, it's a coal country. and
I'm sure a lot of people died doing that.
Exactly my point.
Hard work. Anywhere
Yes.
there's like coal, iron, railways,
Yeah.
etc.
And they had all of those.
Yes, and I mean, it was hard work back in the day when their version of safety wasn't very safe. But.
Yeah.
So that is the history up until mostly to the late 80s, but it's pretty much where we find ourselves today.
Yeah.
So
it's like a town trapped in time.
It sure is. Well, it looks like it too.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like an old place, but in really good condition. I don't know how to explain it. It's just really nice. I'd love to visit.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm sure that you're going to have a lot of good stuff to say about it. And now, time for an ad break.
And now, back to our show.
So for my part, I wanted to say a shout out to the injt.com, onlyinyourstate.com, hauntedrooms.com, and pennsylvaniainaparanormal.tumblr.com. Is the inn haunted? Well, it appears so. At least according to several guests who have reported unexplained activity in some of the rooms. Past reports include chairs being turned upside down while guests slept. TVs have mysteriously turned off and on. Objects have moved around. Strange orbs and shadows have appeared in photographs. And small children have even said they've seen ghosts in their bed. But is it true? Ghost stories run rampant in Pennsylvania. That really comes as no surprise, especially with Gettysburg earning status as perhaps the most haunted town in the entire country. All those ghost tales mean one thing. They have a pretty good chance of experiencing the paranormal without traveling too far from home. Jim Thorpe, affectionately known as the Switzerland of America, provides an idyllic backdrop for a gateway, boasting an enchanting downtown dotted with quaint shops and darling restaurants. The charming small town promises a picture-perfect getaway any time of the year. You'll need somewhere to stay overnight while you're visiting, too. If you want to experience the paranormal, or at least increase your chances of coming face-to-face with the unknown, book a stay at the Inn at Jim Thorpe. Dripping with charm, the inn has a sordid history dating all the way back to 1833. It has hosted some very notable names during its history. However, some of the guests who have checked in have apparently never checked out. At least, not yet. If you're brave enough to check in, you might cross paths with a nurse who seems frustrated as she cares for a patient. You might see her apparition or feel a touch on your shoulder, only to turn around and find yourself alone.
What the hell's going on?
Fall asleep in one of the cozy rooms, but don't be too surprised if you wake up and find that the chairs have been turned upside down. The restless spirits may have also turned your TV on and moved the furniture around. Snap some photos of your room at the inn. Will strange orbs, figures, or shadows appear? Do you hear that? The sound of children laughing when there are no children often wafts through the air. And if you hear knocking in your room in the middle of the night, it's just another of those strange occurrences that have been reported by other guests. The hotel says several guests have reported unexplained activity over the years in some of the rooms. In the past several years, guests have reported cold spots or chilly breezes in the halls, and seeing shadowy figures in their rooms and in hotel common spaces. Some guests said they have experienced an overwhelming feeling of being watched and feeling light touches on parts of their bodies as if done by an invisible hand. Specific rooms noted by guests and inn staff as one of the ones reporting the most unusual activity are 210 and 211. One guest of room 210 reported waking up one morning to an overwhelming smell that made her believe the room was on fire. It only lasted a couple of seconds, but the guest said she and her husband continued to wake up in the middle of the night for the next several days and reported feeling like they were being touched by something or someone. Staff at the inn said 2 guests who had stayed in room 211 at separate times reported the same story. They saw an indentation in the bed as if someone was sitting right next to them. Other hotel staff reported feeling physically ill after running in some sort of dark form inside the inn. In room 303, many guests have spotted orbs of light and shadow figures roaming the room. And in room 315, guests often find the chairs turned upside down while they're not looking or are asleep. The apparition of a woman in Victorian attire has been spotted in many places around the inn, and it is reported she has no face. Other hotel activity includes shadow figures and strange lights, some of which have been captured on camera. While the inn doesn't offer specific ghost tours of the building, guests have said front desk staff are knowledgeable of its history and can provide more details on paranormal sightings. And over the years, ghost hunting crews from around the country have flocked to the inn at Jim Thorpe with their tools and technology to see if they could also experience some of the unusual activity. And this is one of the stories of an investigation that happened here. 10 years ago, Ghost Detectives TV on YouTube would visit the inn at Jim Thorpe. Like any other investigation, the night started with a walkthrough where they talked to an employee who said she had worked there for about 7 years. She goes on to state that 5 of those 7 years have been on night shift. And they asked her if she has experienced anything in her time there, and she responded, quote, "Oh yeah, definitely. I had gone out early one morning to scrape off my windshield, and I heard someone say, 'Excuse me, ma'am,' and I jumped. I didn't know what to do, jump in my car or run, but no one was there." End quote. Then the investigator goes on to ask if they've ever had anybody run out of the place. Quote, "Absolutely yes, a lot of people. Even entertainers have witnessed a few things like objects misplaced in the rooms, things like that. Things turning on in the middle of the night, and it made them feel very uneasy. They wanted to leave." End quote. Next, they talked to another employee named Jen, who says she has worked there for about 8 years. They ask her, out of the 8 years, what were some of her worst experiences while working there? And she replies, quote, "Room 211. That's the one we have the most activity in. I have 2 gentlemen here quite often that are businessmen and are here for a few days out of the month. Both of them, within the same week's time, came down and told me the exact same story. They saw an indentation in the bed next to them and were freaked out about it, and actually asked me if I could move their room." End quote. Asking the first lady they had talked to the same question, she goes on to tell them, quote, "On 2 occasions, I've actually run into some kind of form, something I couldn't explain. It was just black. It made me feel very nauseous. I was sweating. I did sit down for a few minutes, and even talking about it to this day is hard to wrap my head around. I was ill for a time after." End quote. Having heard the stories from the employees, the ghost detectives set up for their investigation. One of the investigators walking into the room tells the story of the last time they were there. stating that the last time we were here, a couple of years ago, there was a little dresser here, and the claims were the dresser drawer would come open and the towels would come flying out of the drawers. So, of course, another member of the team describes how at the time they tried to debunk these claims by seeing if the dresser was tilted forward and maybe the vibration of people walking in and out would make the drawers open on their own, but they could not recreate the claims. Members Kim and Mike start the night at room 211 for a visitation with a ghost named Madeline. Kim goes on to say that she feels very uneasy, like the floors are uneven. Walking around the room with her EMF detector in hand, she starts searching the room. Mike then sits down in a chair and starts a spirit box session, and Kim says, "Madeline, are you here? We mean you no harm or disrespect. We just want to ask you some questions." With no replies, Mike says, "Man, we drove here a long way tonight. We just want to ask you if you would come forward and communicate with us, so you can do so in several ways. You can show yourself to us. You could try to speak through the spirit box, and you could also touch the K2 meter over on the dresser. Is there anybody here besides Madeline? If there is, you could come forward and tell us your name." But again, nothing happens. Kim starts telling Mike a story about how Madeline was involved with a man who had done her wrong, and calls out, "Madeline, what's the name of the man who did you wrong?" It was then the spirit box says the name, Mike. But the responses seem to stop immediately after. Members Bob and Bill are in room 215 and start asking questions. Using the geophone sitting on one of the beds, almost immediately it starts to blink. And they ask, "Is somebody sitting on the bed over there?" And just a second later, they hear a knock on the wall. Rightfully so, both men are caught off guard and state that nobody is on the floor. With more knocking being heard over and over, one of the men says, "What the hell?" Because nobody can figure out where the noises are coming from. They ask, "Madeline, is that you?" And almost at the exact time, the geoport starts to flash again. Getting good evidence, they ask her, "I'll tell you what, if that's you, light it up once for yes and twice for no." And the geoport lights up once, indicating a yes. Noticing that the geoport is still lighting up, the men start to say things like, "There's no one moving in this room. There's no way this thing should be lighting up like this." When the men start to ask questions, the random lighting stops and they receive answers to their questions. And then the random lighting returns. Bob goes on to search the other rooms on the same floor to make sure that there were no other people there, making sure the knocking noises they were hearing were not from a living person. Unable to find anything, they return to the room, but also realize that the noises were coming in the direction of the closet from the next room. And of course, the knocking does not stop. They ask, "Is that you? If it is, do it again right now." And as soon as they could ask, it happens again. So one of the other men says, "I'm going to count to 3. And when I get to 3, I want you to make this light up again. 1, 2, 3. And as soon as he says 3, the knock happens and the geoport lights up. Going forward, the men ask a stream of questions. "Did you live in this town? Do you like that they changed the town to Jim Thorpe? And every single time, they get a response from the geoport and a knocking from the next room. They tell whatever it is, okay, light everything up as much as you can, and we will leave this room. As soon as they said this, they got the response they were looking for, and the knocking on the wall intensified. And as promised, the men left the room. Down in the game room, Mark, Dave, and Alyssa start their investigation. As they sit around the pool table, they ask, is anybody here who would like to make contact with us tonight? But nothing answers. Then they go on to explain that the device that they set on the pool table, the K2 meter, will light up if they touch it, and the Ovilus next to it is another way to contact them. Unfortunately, the game room stays inactive for the remainder of the investigation. Moving to another room, some of the members have met up and explained to the entities that the device on the table, including a spirit box, could help them communicate. They ask whatever is there. If there's anyone in this room, can you tell us what room we are in? But no response comes through. However, one of the other investigators says, that's weird. I was just thinking the exact same question. Oddly, one of the investigators asks, do you know what holiday it is on Sunday? And the spirit box responds, Easter. And it's correct. Right after that response, they ask, how would I know that? And the spirit box replies with, Christian. One of the investigators told the cameraman that he should stop moving around so much. And as soon as he said it, a voice comes through saying, stay. Asking the spirit box if today was in fact Good Friday, it responded with, yes. And while getting responses, they say, I'll tell you what, if you say bye to us, we will pack everything and go. We won't bother you anymore tonight. The spirit box then tells them, sure. And moments later, after the group says goodbye, the spirit box says, bye-bye. The K2 meter blinks in tandem. Keeping their word, the group packs their equipment and can be heard telling the tales of everything that happened that night. Nobody anticipated such an active night at the inn at Jim Thorpe, but the tales of ghostly happenings seemed to be true. If you ever visit Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, and aren't sure if you believe in the paranormal, then book a room at the inn and go find out for yourself that some people check in, but never check out.
You know what I found out about this week's episode?
What?
You read better when you're sick, and I don't. That was rad. That was really good. I'm glad I wrote it the way I did. It was perfect for you.
Yay.
Yeah, you read that so good.
Thank
I
you.
really enjoyed that.
I know, it was a really good story.
So one of the things that I remember from when I was writing this, watching that episode, was that it was alleged to multiple times that everybody believes they're speaking to old coal workers and stuff like that, as opposed to, say, people who were murdered or stuff like that. It, basically just people who lived there throughout time. And like we talked about earlier. So that's what I'm saying. Well, this place is actually known to be a very active place. Very.
Yeah.
It's not like a lot of the other places we cover that have
the trauma and
Yes.
all the
there's no mutilating murders or satanic cults or stuff like that are tied to it.
Interesting
It
to
is.
me.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So what is it? What is haunting the inn at Jim Thorpe?
Yeah.
I've been asking myself this all week because it is so much different from all of the other stuff that we cover.
Yeah.
That
I like this though.
I do too.
I like the mystery behind it.
The history and the
mystery.
It's a throwback, sorry.
But yeah, I find this very intriguing.
Yeah. Well, I think it really lends to like the Native American aspect we're always looking at, especially in a lot of these places in the Midwest, the Northeast, the Northwest, stuff like that. Because Indian tribe, I hate saying that, I should have never said that. Native American tribes,
Yes.
were very prevalent across the entire country, but it seems those were the places that they inhabited the most. But those were like the first places that were taken over.
Right.
Was up in the Northeast and stuff like that. So I wonder if it's all tied together. Angry spirits, because they got screwed.
And I mean, like we've said before, that's the land. No matter what you put there, it could be a McDonald's. I mean, it could be
A haunted McDonald's. Can I get a McGhosty? I'll take a McPoltergeist number 3.
Oh my God, yes.
Hey, McDonald's, if you want to sponsor us, hook a brother up. I love me some sausage, egg, and cheese McMuffins.
But you know what I'm saying? Like it's just there. And for people to say, that they think it's something that's just there and not from something that has occurred there in that specific building, I guess.
But we're never going to know, right? Because the hotel did burn down.
It did.
I can't find any claims of people dying in it, though.
Like if it had people in it or whatever.
Because it seems like it burnt down during a time of kind of like when it was abandoned.
Right.
Or maybe not abandoned, but pretty close.
Not in use.
That's the thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't, because everything I looked at, I couldn't find anything past it just, giving like props to being the White Swan and then the Great American Hotel and stuff like that. There wasn't a whole lot of specifics involved. And I looked, I really did look, and I couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it didn't happen, but the land would make more sense to me because of the Native American aspect. And there was that great fire way back in the day. There were the coal miners, the railway workers. So all these people who lived these really hard lives, doing these real hard jobs, who were staying there.
And back then they had so many accidents.
Bad.
So many.
Real bad.
Like you're
people died off left and right.
50-50 go to work and you may or may not come home.
Not to mention, like, coal miners would get the black lung.
Yeah.
And they would die from cough. Their lungs would fill up with black coal and they would die from it. So very interesting to do this one. Thank you, East Coast Paranormal. This one was a lot different from all the other ones we do, and I'm really glad we had a chance to do it just because it's so much different from all the other ones we've done. I do believe we do have to get to the segment of our show, the defining moment in this piece of American literary genius. It's not literary, we're not reading it, but whatever.
So
I'm going to come up with some good catchphrases for the show, okay? Just give me some time.
So it's time to ask the question then?
The question.
That
Is it real?
Well, other Steven, I wasn't even going to say it, but I was just watching you stare at me from across the table.
So, no, just wait for it. I love it.
I felt like I had to. Like it had to be done. Well, we've heard the history and the mysteries behind it all.
Yes.
So, Megan, what do you think about the inn at Jim Thorpe?
I think I'm going to say like a 70-30 on this one.
Which way are they leaning now?
70 is yes. But I think it's only because of the land. And like I said earlier, I think no matter what you put on there, things will happen. And I don't think anybody may ever find out who and what is there and what comes through. And the 30 part of that is because it's not a super overly done place. I don't know a lot, but the things that we do know and the history behind the whole town and the place, there's something there. There's something to that. So that's what I think.
Cool.
What about you, Stephen?
I am going to give just a little bit of a different answer.
Okay.
I'm actually going to say yes.
Okay.
The big reason why is because of the Native American presence in that part of the country. And growing up, I don't know if people know this, but I'm part Native American. Like my mom is all about it. And I understand how strong the spiritual side of than people there is. Like, it is very strong. And if there's a really good chance of people's spirits lingering, it's them. Mm-hmm. They are in tune with Earth. Yeah. And I do agree with you in the one aspect of it. I believe it's the land as well. Mm-hmm. I don't think it has anything to do with the hotel.
Right.
I think you could put anything there. Like you said, at McDonald's, I'll say a Starbucks. Dunkin' Donuts.
Anything, yeah.
Anything that goes there, I think, is going to be subjected to this. Mm-hmm. But the biggest part for me is the crazy evidence that people have for a place that's not even that well known.
Right.
Documented evidence at that, not just like hearsay. The only few little things I could find visually or like in video or audio wise, it's all been excellent. It's all been very good.
Wow.
And I don't know why more people haven't been there.
Yeah.
Why big name people, and maybe one has and I'm missing it or something. I don't know, but I'd never heard of this place until I talked to East Coast Paranormal. So big groups out there. I'm sure you don't listen to us, but if you do, go there. Like the claims they're wild. They're really good.
Yeah.
I think this could be a good night for anybody that goes there. So yeah, I'd like to see the Inn at Jim Thorpe have its come up in the media.
That would be awesome.
The ghost hunters, the ghost adventures, the kindred spirits, the portals. How all you guys go there. I want to see what you do with it. Really, I want to see somebody like Paranormal Nightmare or Paranormal Quest, or if East Coast Paranormal puts their YouTube channel together, I'd love to see it.
Oh, yeah. We'll definitely be watching.
I just want to see somebody who will go there and I don't have to question the evidence. You know what I mean?
Right.
I want good evidence. That's all I want. Mm-hmm. And if you guys out there haven't seen it, go on YouTube and look up the Ghost Detectives TV. Or I'm pretty sure if you just put in the Inn at Jim Thorpe, it will come up. It's like one of the first few. Mm-hmm. And it's a little older, so it has its cheese in it. I'm not going to lie.
Right.
But for the most part, it was solid, and they did a really good investigation. I really enjoyed watching it. So give it a chance and go follow and like and do all that stuff for East Coast Paranormal. We love those people over there, and thank you again for the suggestion. This was a great one.
Yes, thank you.
Hopefully we'll have them back on in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I think this is probably going to be the end of this one.
I think so,
I think we did what we could do with it. I believe there's no more history or mysteries behind it all. Yeah, we're keeping that.
Leaving you with a cute, quaint little town.
It sounds
with some ghosts.
Beautiful. I'll go stay there.
Yeah. Absolutely. I like the little things that they said there's to do there. Man.
It looks amazing. It looks amazing. So,
come on.
Where can they find you other than at work?
On Instagram at forthebooze_podcast and on Facebook at forthebooze.
You can also find us on Twitter at forthebooze. Unfortunately, right now, we have actually put the Paranormal Oddity space on hiatus because not a lot of people are coming anymore. So I'll tell you, make everybody a deal. If you miss it or you didn't have a chance to come and you want it, DM me or tweet at me or write on Facebook, whatever you want to do. Let me know you'd like to have it back. If enough people wanted to come back, we'll bring it back.
Yeah.
You can also find us on YouTube. I'm going to say it every time. Whatever. If you want to watch a data screen with 10 to 15 minute portions of each episode, and that's your preference, I ain't mad at you. Head over to YouTube for the booze. And don't forget to rate the show anywhere you listen to podcasts. We don't have like a Patreon or anything like that, so we don't really want to do stuff like that. So I guess our payment would just be leave us a review somewhere. Let us know that you like what we're doing. We have a pretty good amount of listeners in this show, and you guys really make it worth doing. So we'd love we'd love to know that you're out there. So
abso-freaking-lutely.
Abso-freaking-lutely. So anywhere you're listening, give us 5 stars. You don't have to write anything if you don't want to, or you can say I suck at reading. Hey, I know I do. It's fine.
it's okay.
I say
we're okay with that.
Megan's the best part of the show. Yeah. I've heard it before. It's all good. But I think this is going to be it. And remember, definitely tune in next week. I think it's going to be a really cool one.
I do too. I'm super
excited about it.
Hopefully I will have my normal voice back.
Hopefully I won't be as bad as you are right now.
Oh, I know.
I'm a couple of days behind you, so I'm a little worried about it. Right now, I feel bad. I don't sound too bad. I feel crappy, but I don't feel too bad. But next week's going to be a fun one, I think. It's going to... Oh, listener stories and
Yes,
show suggestions.
please.
Or if you just want to reach out to us and
Say hi.
anything, whatever, talk to us. That's fine. We're
Yes.
just regular people. forthebooze12@gmail.com. You can talk to both of us.
Yep.
We both get the emails. So I think this is going to be about it. And next week we will catch you guys again for more For the Booze.
See y'all next time.
Bye.